Coming up on Smart Tech Today, Matthew Cassinelli and I talk about the latest news from Fitbit, plus Amazon working on a Kickstarter type project. It's new products from Amazon, and they are voted on by you. Plus, we talk about some updates to the mapping systems, both Apple Maps and Google Maps, and we nerd out about label makers. We've got a lot to talk about on this week's episode of Smart Tech Today, so stay tuned.
Podcasts you love
from people you trust.
This is TWiT.
This episode of Smart Tech Today is brought to you by SanDisk's Data Storage Solutions. Check out their iXpand Flash Drive Lux or Ultra Dual Drive Lux today and get 15% off your first order of the featured SanDisk products at sandisk.com/smart. And by IT Pro TV. Get a new career in IT with the best IT education around. Visit itpro.tv/smart for an additional 30% off all consumer subscriptions for the lifetime of your active subscription. Just use code SMART30 at checkout. Welcome to Smart Tech Today, where we explain the exciting, the dynamic, and the sometimes confusing subject that is the Internet of Things. I am one of your hosts, Mikah Sargent.
And I am Matthew Cassinelli. Hello, Mikah. How are you doing?
I am doing well today, Matthew Cassinelli. Thank you for asking. I believe that we just had touchdown, and that is not a Super Bowl reference. That is instead a space reference. And so, it's one small step for a Martian, one large step for a bigger Martian. That's the saying, right?
Perfect.
They are on Mars, right? I love that people love space, but it just seems so very literally out there to me. And so it doesn't really get me all excited. I don't know. How do you feel about space? Does it
spark your curiosity? With the...
Puns do though. But... So I'm all about that.
I approve.
Yes, I knew Kevin would be into that. Yeah, tell me about your space feels, because for me it's something that there are things happening here on Earth, and so it's hard for me to focus on space.
There's a little bit more going on locally than the average years past, I would say. So that's fair. I think it's always intriguing. I love For All Mankind as the Apple's new show about reimagining the space race and things like that. That was a cool way to kind of pique my interest, but I think I'm the same way. I've got enough problems.
Yeah, and
I was asleep during the landing just now. So,
and to be clear, I want to, because I know that there are space nerds out there, and in fact, we have space nerds at TWiT. And this is not a value judgment at all. I don't want to give the impression that I'm saying, oh, you care about space. Well, how come you don't care about the problems here on Earth? That's not it at all. It's just, for me personally, space just seems like it's so far out there. I know I've already said that, I don't mean that literally so much as I mean it figuratively, that it's hard for me personally to get excited about it. But I love all of the nerdy excitement that's happening all over Twitter and elsewhere as people are watching the thing touch down. And I suppose in terms of technological triumphs, there's a lot to love there as well. So
I almost feel like if there was more of this when we were younger, we would have been more into it. But it did seem like there was a bit of a gap in the middle. Yeah,
that's actually a really good point. It was not as if we kind of felt connection with the rest of the world as we watched our television screens. I think whenever the different space things happened.
Picture
in the past.
Boxes.
So those little picture boxes, just sitting beside them while our mom said, "Hey, don't be so close to the TV. You'll ruin your vision. Here, have some carrots to make your eyes even better."
Good sentence.
One thing I hate about Skype is how much it ducks the other person, because I don't know what you said to me in response because of me talking while you were talking.
My bad. I got to stop interrupting.
No, I mean, we should be able to do that because that's how conversations work in real life, but it is difficult. Skype does not allow that. Basically, this is a show complaining about Skype. No, we should move on. We've talked about space. We've complained about Skype. So I think we've covered your typical nerd podcast conversations. And now let's go more focused and talk about smart stuff. And up first, it's a wearable, and we're not talking about the Apple Watch.
Yes, this is sort of a follow-up from previous stories, just that the Fitbit acquisition is fully complete, 100% operational, and now the biggest thing is that they're actually sold on the Google Store online. So I thought this was just kind of an interesting moment because Fitbit is now officially a Google product. I'd love to see if this is one of those things like Instagram where a lot of people have no idea for years and years that now it's owned by another company and ran by them. But it'll be interesting to see just this sort of transition. They've got fully integrated with Nest, fully integrated with Fitbit. Their whole Pixel line has been going. So it's interesting to see Google sort of solidify themselves in that space because the Wear OS past of Android Apple Watches is very like, let's just pretend that didn't happen or something like that. And they just bought a new brand. So it'll be interesting to see how Android smartwatches progress in the future. But at least Google's got their main thing under their belt now that you can get directly from them. And I hope it means that they have a little bit more longevity to them because Fitbits alone can keep tracking you as long as you wear it. But I think just maybe the consumer perception of longevity of Android smartwatches will be improved now. It's like you just kind of assume they're not going to be around. So, and it's just good too because Fitbit like ultimately was trying to get sold or needed to get into a bigger company like this in order to compete with something like Apple Watch. So that circle is now kind of complete.
Yeah, I think that, for me, seeing the history of what Wear OS brought and did not bring, and what people wanted from there, the merging of the platforms should help to kind of usher this along. And, ultimately, while the early days of Nest were maybe a little bit rocky, at this point, we've seen Google be a good steward there. And I think that they don't want to mess up on this product and this sort of brand, this line, because I think it's incredibly important for any big technology company to have some sort of, dog in this hunt, horse in this race, caterpillar in this metamorphosis race, all those things. It's important for companies to have something there. So if they're going to take Fitbit and improve upon it, I think that they're, as much as we've seen Google take things and then work on it for a while and then let it go, I don't think that this is going to be one of those things because of how, you can create and get rid of a social media network or service. You can create and get rid of one messaging service and create another one. You can create and get rid of an internal game studio, but to get rid of a wearable market when that's so important, I think is something that I don't see Google doing unless the Apple Watch just absolutely destroys the market, and continues to absolutely claim that whole market. So unless that happens, I think that we'll see Google stay in this for a while. And folks, if that doesn't happen, then you can come back here and you can let me know that I was wrong and that I gave too much hope to Google, gave them too much credit. But I want to believe that that's not the case. Now, let's what else is going on with Fitbit?
I think the next story is, I'd say that Fitbit was already working on this, but it could be a good signal towards Google maintaining it well, is they're now having the blood glucose tracking in the Fitbit app. And so this is pretty interesting, especially because the Apple Watch is rumored to get a blood sugar sensor in Series 7, but the Fitbit can already do it now. So it's not totally clear based on their explanation how it's tracking this information or how it can detect it, but it should be rolling out to people across the US. So you can kind of see within, if you're using the whole Fitbit app experience, you can track your food and see it along with all of your other health data. So I think this is pretty awesome because that's something that I think that awareness level on a daily basis would make a big difference. Even now I think about it, I should have put this as a story, but last week I was in the health app for iPhone and I found I think it's cardio fitness levels option that I had never seen before, where it basically looks at your heart rate variability and then determines whether or not it's within the acceptable ranges for your age and things like that. I don't remember exactly. There might be like weight calculations or something too, but it basically told me that I'm out of shape. And I was like, interesting, because I've had all of this data, but it just never explicitly said that. And so I think the combination of more information like that plus some blood sugar things could really help you make. I think we're getting into the point where the quantified self stuff could really help you make decisions. And like I was looking at that heart rate variability thing, and just especially looking back at the past year, I was like, oh yeah, it's very clear why there's some spikes and some dips in certain points because of, let's say, stressors in our lives. So I think the blood glucose thing on Fitbit itself is going to be really important, and all Apple or all smartwatches should get this. So they're a little bit beating Apple to the punch, which is, I'm sure, will be in their marketing.
Yes,
as soon as Apple comes out with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree with you. It's an important place to be. And it will be interesting to see other companies' takes on it and how that's shaped over time as well. Let us move on, though, to talk about something that has already grabbed my attention, certainly, and I think eventually will grab my wallet because Amazon, it's, you may have heard about this day one system that Amazon had created as part of the Echo frames and Echo Ring, or I can't remember, Echo Loop may have been what the device was called. But there were kind of test products that Amazon was working on for itself. And the Echo frames ended up being a product that Amazon shipped, but the Echo Loop was one that did not. Well, Amazon, I think, maybe realized how these products and kind of testing and seeing what people thought about them and whether there was interest in them would lead to an actual space for this whole idea of, here's a product that we're thinking of creating or that someone's thinking of creating. Is there interest in it? And if so, then we'll build it. So with day one editions is where it started. Now there is a program under the day one editions brand called Build It. And it is exactly what I've described there, or as Matthew kind of points out, and as the input article discusses, it's a little bit like Kickstarter. Although with Kickstarter, you have to give your money. And this is, once it ships, then you can provide your finances. So, or you can provide the money. So I don't know about you, but as soon as I saw this smart sticky note printer, so basically it uses voice to print technology. So you can say, ALEXA, print a note, ship package to Kelly, or ALEXA, print out a Sudoku puzzle, or ALEXA, print out my shopping list, or any number of things, calendar events, reminders, little puzzles. You can use these. It's thermal technology, so it's not using ink. It's special paper along with a thermal printer to print out these little notes. And Matthew, I don't know if you remember this, but I remember a product, and it was a Kickstarter, that wanted to offer this functionality, but it ended up not shipping, but I was super into the idea. And it's so funny that this happened because recently I was going through my old bookmarks and kind of cleaning them out. And I found a bookmark to this site that was for that printer. And I was kind of like, oh man, I wish I could have. And then shortly afterwards, Amazon announces this. And so immediately I was like, and yep, I definitely want to have that if that ever ships. So let me go ahead and put my interest in. And Amazon will not charge you unless the product is, voted for enough that they choose to ship it. And
I'll say you're going to be paying for that one because
is
at 73% of the goal already, and it launched yesterday. So,
oh my gosh, that's so exciting.
I do think it's a little pricey though. It's $90 plus it's going to be $115 once this is basically like a pre-order price. So that's like pretty expensive.
Yeah.
It's like, I do love the concept. Yeah, I should have started with that. Is that it's awesome. It's just like being able to dictate stuff into the air and then print out the physical list is like the perfect example of the combination of smarts with just actual practical use. Also,
have you looked at thermal printers though? They're usually about $200. So I looked on Amazon, and 140 is the Amazon choice. The best seller is $173. Another popular one is $190. The least expensive one is available for $67, but it only prints out labels, not full kind of tags, or in this case, sticky notes. So I guess I didn't
think about it doesn't need ink. So that's a lot.
The pricing is I feel it is pretty good. So this is how kind of Amazon does it, is they say, here's an idea and here is how much we would charge you. You say, yes, I want to pre-order it. And it has to meet a goal by a predefined date. So in this case, March 19th of this year. So in about a month from now, it has to meet that goal. And if it does, then they will ship it. And then they give you shipping dates. So Amazon estimates that this will ship between July and September of 2021 if it is chosen to go forth. So that's one of the options. Another one is a nutrition scale. So along with providing, weight for how many blueberries you have put into the thing, you can also say weigh 200 calories of blueberries, and then you can figure out kind of how many of those you need to have on the smart scale. I'm trying to see what else I could do, because this didn't. Oh, here's a great one. Ask the smart scale how much sugar is in these blueberries. And using contextual awareness, it knows you're weighing something on the smart scale. It determines the weight of the items on the smart scale. And then because you said it was blueberries, then it can calculate how much sugar is in those. That one personally was not of interest to me. Although it's available for only $35, which is pretty cool.
And it can show up on the Echo Show too, which is cool. I think that one especially price wise, I think seems more practical and could have like a real benefit to your daily life of actually measure. Because the biggest thing for me is when I ever weigh out my stuff, it makes a huge difference just understanding, that little bit more added 150 calories. And if I just have a reasonable amount of this, then I can have it regularly or something like that. I feel like.
And then the third. Oh, go. Yeah. I mean, I agree with you on that. I think that's one that seems to have an actual kind of impact, I think, for anyone versus being kind of more nerdy. Not everybody wants a thermal printer that can print out different stuff that you want. And not everybody wants this next thing, although I did, because I remember fondly the cuckoo clocks in my grandparents' house and in my great-grandparents' house. And Amazon has put forth the concept of a smart cuckoo clock. So you get these little kind of adorable alerts to go along with this very modern-looking cuckoo clock. It is very pricey, especially given that all it does is lets you set timers, alarms, and stuff with your with the device, and then it has an LED display that can show you the countdown, and then it will do the cuckoo sound whenever the alarm goes off. So I personally like this. I think that it's adorable and quirky and different. And again, this might not be something that Amazon would have experimented with if there wasn't the option of seeing if there's interest. So
I agree. I think that's so cool because it does, like, I think these products make a lot more sense than a lot of the other Echo things that they've made. Like,
the Bear.
I think it being a thermal printer for the first one does make sense that the cost is higher, but all I just saw was like, instead of using sticky notes, pay $115. And it's like, okay, I'm just not going to do that. It doesn't.
Right.
And also, didn't Amazon make like $100 billion last year? Like, they can not jack up the price on us and play the economies of scale thing and make it a more, I think going from, what is it? It's like $90 now. I just think 115 is like, I don't know why people would buy that. That just seems so far out of the like, yeah, I could. This is a cool idea. If this was like $50, then it would be like, yeah, I'll totally just grab it. And I just think it seems like I like want to use it, and I'm disappointed that it's so much because it does seem slightly impractical, or like you have to buy the paper also and things like that. So
yeah, I agree with that. I see the argument there about how the price, you can, spend $15 and get 900,000 Post-it notes, or spend this much money and not get 900,000 Post-it notes. It's definitely niche. And I think that it's, again, quirky and different.
But I think
that's
it's
kind of
only because it's that expensive. Like, I guess the whole printer ink and everything, I agree, would make it slightly a pain also. But I think this idea is in the realm of like, most people would want to use it, but just not for $100. And so that's slightly disappointing. But I think the whole program itself is awesome. Like, I'm totally here for this idea, especially because you can let consumers vet it a little bit more and not just have like weird stuff coming out that people don't necessarily want to spend that much money on for like the frames too. I think the scale is the best one, and because it's cheapest, that makes sense to me. I think the clock thing would be neat. Like, I like that idea of making smart clocks more useful and better, because I do think when I was in college, one of my favorite purchases was just a $20 wall clock from Amazon or from Walmart or something like that, because I could just tell what time it was, and everybody had phones and there wasn't really smartwatches. So everyone's always like pulling out their phone to check the time. And it was just like, it's just 9. Like, I can just tell. It was like, for the price and utility, it was like the smartest thing I bought all of college, because it was very cheap and actually useful every day. So this is like
absolutely
the $100, $115 thing for like once a week going to the grocery store that we don't actually go to anymore or something like that is like, it's just a little too expensive. So if they can launch this and then lower the price, I'm all for it.
Yeah, totally fair. That takes care of that, I think. And as we said, in any case, it's a really cool idea, and it'll be interesting to see what comes next. Comes next?
Cool story. This one is about how the LA police use footage from Amazon Ring devices to investigate the police brutality protests this summer. So this is The Verge has a write-up, but there's a piece from the Electronic Frontier Foundation looking into this. And I think this is just yet another one of those things that grosses you out about the detail and just the freedom to gather like you can normally. I can't think of the right term right now, the legal one, but a good piece in the Electronic Frontier Foundation's story about this was they're just talking about separately, like in DC, when all those protests were going on, there's like a school, and these children going from the school to the gym walk past no less than 13 Ring devices and basically have consent over whether or not they're being filmed from these people's front steps. And so this piece is about how they like got I don't remember what the term is too, but they requested the information from them and got back redacted emails. But there are some where I think a big thing is they technically half the time are just LAPD can use Ring to ask customers directly to send in their footage, which is technically, it's like better than the warrant thing where you have no permission, but it's still just like the one random dude sends it in and everybody else loses their freedoms as well. So I think this is just it's never a great look for Amazon. They did say that now that there's encryption, you can basically avoid Amazon's ability to give it to the police, but they can still request from Ring users, hey, there was activity. We want to find who's responsible and things like that. So there's like an obvious technical benefit to finding people who do commit crimes, but also it depends on what your definition of the crime is. For example, just being out in public protesting and things like that. So I think this is really in that gray area. And it's good too that we have companies like the Electronic Frontier Foundation to do this work and let us know that these things are continuing to happen, because I don't think Amazon would be putting out press releases or something about this. So,
yeah, I mean, that's exactly right. I'm glad that we have organizations like EFF paying attention to this and letting folks know for the, at the very least, the ability to make that choice, or, to make that choice based on the knowledge, on all of the information, having it all there, as opposed to kind of going in without knowing. And of course, encryption. Yeah, I agree that having that there and thereby eliminating the opportunity for a company to just automatically hand over that information is good. But I think increasingly, I wouldn't be surprised if folks getting these prompts, I'm gonna, because the problem is it kind of, what is the word I'm looking for? Kind of, self-limits the audience based on interactions I've seen, among friend groups where someone was talking about their Ring camera, and then everybody kind of jokingly was teasing them about having a Ring camera because of the implications. And, that person never brought up the fact that they had a Ring camera again. I think that starts to self-limit the audience to folks who would maybe be more happy than not happy to click accept on that button. So, yeah, I don't know. That would be some interesting data to scoop. I don't know how one would do that, but that would be some interesting data to look into.
I think it's also the EFF article talks about how these are just kind of like coercive settings where it's similar. It's not as intense, but when police ask to search your phone, that's not them telling you that you have to do this. And so just getting an email from the police that's like, please send in your data is kind of like, am I supposed to do this? It is just I don't know if problematic is the right term, but it just encroaches on people's privacy, especially when it just becomes some random people and not like it's you submitting your footage of yourself. I don't know. That obviously you wouldn't do that, but it's still just not great to see. And especially that there's, they talk about just having reasonable suspicion that you committed a crime, and something in situations like this where you're at protests, there's no reasonable reason that just you being in that footage walking in the street means that you were somebody who was committing crimes in those situations or something like that. So I think that's why they can just get a whole day's worth of protest data just because they thought that maybe you could be in it or something like that. And versus actual requests for specific things, I think have more legitimacy than something like this. It's they just know who went to all of these protests because of footage from some random porch over there that you walked past. So that is just a surveillance state that you don't have you have no control over. And Thanks, Amazon. Maybe put something more. I don't know. I was trying to make a link back to the Build It program of like something to cover up your ring. I don't know. That was dumb.
All right, let us move on to take a quick break. I'm excited to tell you about a pretty nifty product from the folks over at SanDisk. This is super cool. Finding a data storage solution that is compatible across all of your devices can be a challenge. If you are into smart tech, chances are you've got different types of products, different platforms you're using. Maybe you're using a PC or you're using an iPad, but you've got an Android phone, or you've got some semblance of all of those things. And it's hard to find something that's going to work with all of the different things you've got, but not anymore. Thanks to SanDisk's easy-to-use data storage solutions. First, there's SanDisk's 2-in-1 flash drives that are the perfect way to back up and transfer your files to other devices. And no matter what device you have, SanDisk has you covered. For Android users with a USB-C port, the Ultra Dual Drive Lux allows you to seamlessly transfer data from your devices to your computers. And then there's the iExpand Flash Drive Lux, which makes it easy to transfer data between your iPhone, your iPad Pro, your Mac computer, and USB devices. And yes, I said USB devices. That means even Android phones. And with automatic file backup, all you have to do is plug it in to your phone, and it will start to back up your files for you. In fact, I have it plugged into my phone right now. This SanDisk drive, it's super small, super lightweight. And on one side, I think the thing that makes this so cool is that on one side is a USB-C port, and on the other is the Lightning port. And so I literally have this plugged into the bottom of my phone, and then it pairs with the app and opens the app and starts backing up my files automatically. Now, you might go, okay, my photos are backing up to the cloud, though, right? Right. But it is so important to have a local backup of your files. I can't tell you the number of times where I have heard the heartbreaking stories of folks who, for some reason, they forget their password. They lose some other thing that lets them get access to the photos they have stored in the cloud. And suddenly those family memories, all that kind of stuff gets lost, and they're unable to gain access to it. Well, if you have a local copy of it, just to keep it safe, then you know that you can do that. But that's one reason to have a local storage solution. Another reason is oftentimes it's a lot faster. Plug this in, move those files, and SanDisk does a cool thing to make sure that you can pull the files completely off of your phone if you want to free up space. I know that's a big concern. And then I could just flip that around, plug it into my MacBook Pro with USB-C ports on the side, or I can plug the USB-C into an Android phone and get some photos or videos off of there or other files and then plug it. It's so nice that way that it just kind of flips back and forth and lets me plug it in however I need to. But one of the things that I find this was a very clever choice by the developers over at SanDisk, is that when you plug it in and you are backing up your photos and your files, it is pulling the full size versions, the full resolution, the full size of each of the photos off of iCloud instead of just getting those local copies that are tiny little thumbnails. So you know that what's being stored on the flash drive is the best quality of the photo that's available. That way you're not just backing up these tiny little thumbnails that are not what you want, so that if you were in that situation where you needed to get access to those photos and couldn't get it off of the internet, you would be able to. I think that's so clever. So you've got to check out the iExpand Flash Drive Lux, which is, as I said, what I'm using right now. I've plugged it into my iPhone, and it's currently backing up the files, the photos and everything to this drive. And when it's done, I can swip that around, pop it into my MacBook Pro, and it's good to go. So cool. So seriously, SanDisk offers the best solution for backing up and transferring your data. And right now, you out there can get 15% off your first order of the featured SanDisk products, but only when you go to sandisk.com/smart. That's sandisk.com/SMART. Sandisk.com/smart. Yeah, that's right. We've got that URL. I was so pumped to see that. Sandisk.com/smart. That's ours. And now it's yours. Go there, check out these great products, and find a new, novel, and creative way to back up your files. And folks, I want to buy these for all of my family members. I can send them and say, plug this in, download the app that comes up, and you're going to be backing up those files to this flash drive. And then there's not all of this, but how do I move it here? How do I put it there? It's seriously so simple. And I love that about this. So again, sandisk.com/smart. Buy one for every member of your family. All right, folks, one of the topics we tend to cover here on Smart Tech Today is mapping, because what is one of the best uses that we have for our smart devices? I don't know about you, but my smartphone is my GPS system. And there are some new features in several of the different platforms that we want to talk about today, including Apple Maps getting some features for speed traps, for accidents, and other road hazards. Tell me what we're working with here, Matthew.
Yes. So this is currently in the iOS 14.5 beta. So you probably haven't seen this rolled out, but wanted to talk about it just because it seems like the CarPlay integration is really great. There's some basically now anywhere in Maps, depending on mobile or in the car, there's a little warning signal thing that you can hit, and then it'll show up options for reporting a road hazard, reporting the accident or speed trap thing. But I think the biggest thing that seems awesome is that you can use Siri in the car to just say there's a trap up ahead or something like that. So that was always one of the things that I didn't love about services like Waze, is that you're sitting there playing with your phone and not looking at the road. And so seeing that kind of support come to voice, especially just at all in iOS and Apple Maps, is going to be great. But then the voice capabilities too make it not just that you have it, is actually going to be really useful. And getting every single person with Apple Maps on the road reporting this kind of stuff sounds like one of those lovely large community things where it's like, don't get a speed trap and things like that. That is always like, that benefit of Waze has always been amazing. And so I think that's going to be cool to just everybody can take advantage of that, regardless of whether you're, let's say, you're being surveilled by Google Maps or not.
I don't like it without the silly parts of it. The thing about Waze is that it has some kind of silly little cars that you go past and little bits of candy, and then sometimes an advertisement for a gas station will pop up, and all that kind of stuff is just crusty junk that I don't want. And I just want to get to my destination and not feel like I'm being watched the whole way. And I realize that that's how GPS kind of works. It's, the whole time you're using something to track where you are. But I guess I just don't want to feel like that's happening. I know that it's happening, but I don't want to feel like it's happening. And if I don't have something that is playing along with me as I'm making my trip, that would make me feel better. Plus, it's less distracting. And if there's one thing that we could all use less of, it's distracted drivers on the road.
Mm-hmm. Especially, that voice stuff makes a big difference. And I do love the linked TechCrunch article inside the 9to5Mac one does mention that Waze has Siri shortcut support, but they don't have reporting for these kind of incidents. And even with Apple Maps, you can say like the incident is no longer here too, because that's one thing. It's just out of date data. But this is just great. I feel like it is interesting that Apple put in the thing that kind of plays against the police reporting there. Like Apple, I feel like, tries not to interfere with stuff like that just to not get a bad look or something like that. But I think this is, in theory, knowing about a speed trap will help you slow down, and that's ultimately the goal. So it's not just about juking around the police or something like that. But yeah, this is great. The iOS beta is still underway, so it probably won't roll out until March sometime, because we're currently in the beta 2, and there's usually 3 or 4 or 5. So should be coming out soon, but pretty nice. Looking forward to that for sure.
Yes. I don't drive ever, or else I would have tried this myself because I do have the beta. Yeah, so I wish I drove so I could check this out.
But like,
alas,
I have all
that is not the case.
The stop signs and lights and everything in Apple Maps too. Like, it really is. If people haven't at all considered it after their giant debacle launching it and everything, it has improved a lot. And this is kind of like, I'd say besides like multi-destination routing, I don't even think you can do that on Google Maps on local. And they do have, now that I'm thinking about it, they have good data of like whether people are at the venue or not. That's one benefit of Google Maps, but they're almost at parity now. So that is pretty interesting. Guess it only took them 10 years or something. I don't remember.
Yeah, that's... Huh.
I guess the next story is about...
I guess it's all
Google
about focus,
ahead,
right?
So.
It's... Go ahead.
No, I was just going to move on, but if you have another point.
No, I was going to say, I think it's all about focus, where the developers, choose to focus the attention of the features that they want to add to a mapping service. And of course, like that in and of itself is a very obvious thing to say. So, don't applaud me for saying that. Yeah. But what I'm getting at is I find it fascinating seeing what Apple finds as important and the features that it finds are important versus what Google Maps finds are important because, for multiple reasons. One, it's just interesting to see, but also because one has been around for a lot longer and has a lot of user data and usage data to look at. And it makes me curious if these decisions are based in usage data or if it's just, internal encouragement of new features to add and kind of where those fall in. So I find that I like to look at that and see how the different companies are trying to improve upon the tech.
Well, especially like ultimately people will just use Google Maps instead of Apple Maps entirely because of these features. And I think I just remember too that I think officially got non-beta biking directions in the Bay Area so that Apple Maps has biking directions, but they weren't like fully sure about it. And like you said, Google Maps had years and years ahead of it. So I think that's very interesting. But it is ultimately Maps is still search on some level. And I think there's been a lot of competition. One of the things in this beta too, we don't have a story about it. Maybe we can mention it when it happens, but there's more privacy tracking in iOS 14.5. And so it's kind of contentious with Google and Apple. So these seemingly innocuous.
We should clarify. Sorry, before you go on, you said there's more privacy tracking, but what I think you mean is more privacy tracking protections, right?
There you go. Yeah, good point. Apple's just switching course. No. So these Maps updates are also like, in many ways, they could pull a lot of iOS users away from Google's claws, you could say, with these kind of. They're like Maps was kind of a moat that they had for a while, but now Apple is digging into it a little bit, trying to cross it. I don't know, metaphors. But the next story is about how Google is taking another step ahead that Apple probably isn't at yet, where you can pay for parking and get travel tickets inside of Google Maps. So I will say, like, my first thought is antitrust, but it sounds both useful, but fully routing you into Google paying for flights and completely skipping all of those flight services online is one of the complaints in the past. But
yeah, I guess actually, no, I'm not even going to try to make an excuse for this. I was trying to, because that functionality sounds very helpful is the thing. But just because it sounds helpful, that doesn't mean that it is, going to do it in a way that is not trying to kind of claim ownership, so to speak, of the content there. So in that sense, not a good look.
It does look like this integration is built off of Park Mobile and Passport, which are the pay for parking type services. And I will totally say, like, the worst thing of modern conveniences, quote unquote, with paying for parking is when you get there and you're ready to pay, and then you have to go download a stupid app to pay for it. So I think this is actually a really good quality of life thing. I think maybe having those native integrations for using your service, but built in through the maps, might be a little bit better than completely cutting out those middlemen. But now that I say that, maybe them just being middlemen was always part of the problem. So that's always fascinating. Oh, and I did see, I guess I didn't include this in here either, but the Clipper card in the Bay Area is getting transit card support with Apple Pay. So that's kind of cool. That's rolling out for us, even though I'm not going to take public transit anytime soon. In theory, sometime next year, or if people are ever back in the Bay Area, if WWDC happens, taking BART with, you can just tap your phone and sign in and things. So that's 2 years in the coming from when New York got theirs, but it's very interesting that stuff doesn't happen in Apple's hometown area, but we're getting that too. So lots of travel smarts being improved. And then the last story that I wanted to mention, just because it's shortcuts, but it's not Apple shortcuts. Gotta get it. But I love seeing these companies expand it further. So Google Assistant is expanding their shortcuts feature onto Android Auto. So this is neat, and I'd say they beat Apple to putting shortcuts into the car. I guess you can do it with Siri, but this is I think a good example, especially integrated with all the Nest products, is when you get in the car, you can kind of arm the house and turn on the lights or turn off the lights and close the garage and everything with a little button on your car screen. So
nice.
This is great to see shortcuts as a concept continue to get expanded out and not just be about Siri shortcuts, because I think it makes a lot of sense. And especially in the car, there are a lot more practical reasons to want to tap one button instead of 5 different menus or something like that. So I think this is awesome. I think it's great. And I want to see shortcuts on the CarPlay home screen. Official feature request.
There's really not any way to do shortcuts, because I thought there was an automation for when I connect to CarPlay.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Oh, but that's
There's
just
a CarPlay automation, so it could trigger something right when you plug it in, and you can use Siri. But I just think the icon thing makes a lot of sense too, because I don't really use any of the CarPlay interface besides a couple of those apps, and so just giving it more practicality and not having to remember the trigger phrase, I think that's a big one. Or I built a lot of my shortcuts now with menus, and so those don't work as well with Siri directly. So just being able to tap twice on the screen real quick. I guess that's less than the one tap thing, but it's all about how you design them. So I think this makes sense, and having those options right there in front of you is going to make it more useful for everybody in the car too.
Yeah, cool. I wish that the pandemic wasn't happening. Of course, Again, another obvious statement, but a lot of these features I think would be so cool to test out and try out if this wasn't happening during this time. And so we'll have to kind of wait to see what it's like when we get to a place where there's more driving around that we're doing.
That's fair. We're on the way out-ish, so it's better. It makes more sense than last summer or something like that to focus on this stuff.
True.
So they always do kind of have to roll this out ahead of time before everybody wants to use it a ton during the summer or something like that. So that's always good.
Yep. Alrighty, folks, we're going to take a quick break before we come back with the project for this week. And I'm going to tell you about our pals at IT Pro TV. The tech industry is, as you might imagine, always rapidly expanding, and the demand for IT skills in the workforce is also growing. An IT career can be rewarding, and of course it can have longevity, which is something we could all use in our working lives. They don't just teach you IT skills. IT Pro TV teaches you the skills that are in demand. You want to be valuable to your future employers, and you will with IT Pro TV. IT Pro TV tells you what those jobs are and shows you how to get certified for them. One of the best things about IT Pro TV is its wonderful teaching style. If you like podcasts, especially podcasts with video, and you like having hosts that have enthusiasm and personality and teachers that have enthusiasm and personality, then you're going to love IT Pro TV's teaching style. IT Pro TV launched in 2013, and now they have 7 studios where they teach you the ins and outs of IT and keep it entertaining and fun. One reviewer of IT Pro TV said, "This site has helped me with 2 certifications and also as the supplemental material for my grad school classes. Give it a try. You won't be disappointed." Yeah, I can't think of a better endorsement than to hear that the person in their grad school classes was told, check out IT Pro TV's content because we want you to use that to learn how to do the things that you're wanting to do. That's great. You can get the certifications you need all from the safety and comfort of your own home, and you're going to be able to learn at your own pace and schedule. With more than 5,800 hours of IT training available to stream, you will find the right content that fits your own educational goals. And by the way, February is Project Management Month at IT Pro TV. You can check out their webinar. It's on demand, and it took place on February 11th. It was called Navigating the Future of Project Management. They have courses in PMP, ITIL, Service Management, and Agile. You can also get training in Microsoft, Cisco, Apple, Linux, and more. And as if that wasn't enough, they're also the only official video training partner for CompTIA. So you can get one of their learning coaches along with all of their wonderful job resources to help guide you on your career path. You'll always be supported with IT Pro TV's amazing team. And by the way, if, again, you like podcasts, then you've got to check out TechNado with Don Pizzette, which features industry guests and IT news recaps for a deeper dive into the realm of IT. Check that out. Get a new career in IT with the best IT education around. Go to itpro.tv/smart. Yeah, that's right. We've got that URL again. And use code SMART30 to receive 30% off all consumer subscriptions. That's itpro.tv/smart and use code SMART30 for an additional 30% off for the lifetime of your active subscription. IT Pro TV. Build or expand your IT career and enjoy the journey. Thanks so much to IT Pro TV for sponsoring this week's episode of Smart Tech Today. We appreciate it. All right, folks. This week, the project is one that I wanted to talk about. It's sort of post-winter time climate here in California, and for the most part, things have been pretty dry. See, you laugh, but where I come from, winter is a very long period full of snow and ice and cold. And here in California, it's like occasionally it rains. And so that's a big change for me. But even though
I'm not laughing at you.
Even though it's just
Texas mostly is why we're like, right. Oh, we're out of winter here.
Yeah, here in California, it's different certainly from places like Texas, at least in Northern California. Anywho, point being that it's been very dry as of late, and I have suffered a number of nosebleeds just kind of over and over and over and over and over and over again. And I used to get this in winters in Missouri, and then it went away for a long time, and that's because I had my humidity game on point. But in recent years, I should say within the recent year, I had not been paying as close attention and kind of letting that fall to the wayside. And due to that, this has sprung up again. And so I kind of wanted to get things back in order, get things working how they should be. And the way to do that was by setting up some automations for the air quality and air values that were present in my environment. So you can do this with a number of different tools and in a number of different ways. And so I'm less interested in explaining that part of it rather than to just talk about some of the things that I've done. So one of my favorite products, one of my favorite smart home products that I have is called Aware, AWAIR, which you can go to getaware.com to learn about it. And it's the Aware Home device. And this little device is a sensor, an air quality sensor for your home that has a whole bunch of different values. So that pays attention to a whole bunch of different values. So the different things that it's looking at, and you can see it's got this really beautiful display. It's LED and it's kind of a pixelated display for those who are listening rather. And then there's a hole in the left side of it. And this hole, actually, there's a little fan inside that is a suction fan, I guess you could say, or like a reverse. I don't know. It's like a little blower, but it sucks instead of blows. And so it encourages air to enter through these sensors so that it can track temperature, humidity, CO2 levels, VOC levels, and particulate levels in your home. This thing is hyper accurate. It keeps running track of your home, and it can alert you when things are looking good or not looking good. So there are scores for temperature, humidity, CO2, chemicals, and particulates, and it has these scores displayed on the front of the device. So you'll see your score out of 100. And to the left of that are all these dots. And those dots actually represent each of the scores in order: temp, humidity, CO2, chemicals, and particulates. And you can set it up to do this if you wanted to, or not do this if you don't want it to. Along with sending you push notifications, it will actually notify you on the device itself. And so you'll hear this sound, and then it lets you know kind of what's going on, what's good about your air right now, what's bad about your air. And it does this throughout the day. I will get notifications saying, hey, the dust has actually improved in the space. And it's like, oh yeah, I turned this on, or I turned this off, or hey, the temperature has improved, or the humidity has improved. And so you start with something like this. Another option would be an Eve room sensor. There are loads of different sensors out there that do multiple readings of your air: temperature, humidity, CO2, VOCs, etc. And so you need to have one of these in order to set up the system. But once you start here, then you can add on different automations. So one of the things that my ecobee smart thermostat has is a feature that's called, let me see exactly what the name of it is. Hold on. I needed to get closer so I could open my iPad with my face. One of the features that it has is called dehumidify using AC. And so this is essentially a way to keep the humidity at a good level without getting too high. So if you've got multiple humidifiers in your home, then you might find that the humidity gets too high. If you do go too high, then you start to create an environment that not only is less comfortable, because your body has a natural way of regulating heat, or multiple ways of regulating heat. And one of those is through sweat, because by sweating, then the sweat particles are meant to evaporate off of your skin, which starts to cool you. But if the air is already saturated with water through humidity, then the sweat stays on your body and you become less comfortable, both in literally feeling wet, but also in that evaporative process not working to help cool your body. So that's why when folks talk about it being a dry heat, that's what's supposed to be better about a dry heat, is that your body can sweat and it does what it's supposed to do. So you can use that dehumidifying process. But what I like to do is start with the air quality sensor and use those different values that are available there to trigger different things in my home. I've got 2 rooms that have air purifiers, and I've shown one of them on the show before. and I can't think of the name of it at this moment, but sort of a cylindrical design. And then I've got another one that is the Air Mega, I think is what it's called. And both of these air purifiers are excellent, and they've helped in reducing the particulates in the space. But I've got each of them plugged into a smart plug. And because they have the functionality of remembering their last settings, what they were set to before you turned them, before they kind of lost power, then they can automatically turn on and turn off using the smart plug. So I just set up an automation that says if the particulates in the space get above X value, then turn on the air purifier. And I have it set up so that the Aware element, or the Aware Home, because I've got a different model than the one that they sell now. Mine's got like wood around it, so it's all fancy. And with it's downstairs. And so the air purifier that's downstairs will turn on if the particulates get above a certain level. And then the other room sensor that I have upstairs, if its particulate levels get above a certain point, then I will turn on the other plug for the air filter or air purifier that I have upstairs. Yes. Then there's humidity. So I have a humidifier that I use. It's mostly in the bedroom for when I sleep, because that's kind of the most important time to kind of rejuvenate and keep those areas of your body moisturized. And so with that, I have a humidity sensor in the bedroom that also is the sensor for the other things. And if humidity drops below a certain point, then I simply turn that back on, and I turn the humidifier on, and it humidifies my space. Outside of those two things, there isn't a whole lot else that I want to do automatically. The temperature stuff is all regulated by my thermostat, so I don't need to add anything to that. And the humidity and particulate levels are, as I said, taken care of with that. So the only other thing are CO2 levels, which the best way to deal with CO2 levels is opening windows or turning on the fan of your AC system, your HVAC system, and just running that. So the Ecobee has a pretty cool feature where you can just activate the fan, and depending on the time of day, if it's night, I don't have this. If it's night, I do have this. No, let me try that again. If it's night, I do not have this feature run, but if it's during the day, then I do. So during the day, because I don't want to open the windows whenever it's hotter outside, I will just have the AC fan turn on and circulate air through the space to kind of clear out the CO2 and bring in fresher air. But at night, because it's much cooler outside, I just get the notification, and then I can just open a window or two if I want to kind of free up the space. So those are kind of all of the different systems that I have set up to help me kind of improve upon my air quality. And I am happy to report that it has been a while since I've had a nosebleed now. And so I'm glad that I had this smart tech working in my favor. But I wanted to talk about those products as a means to improve the air quality in your space, and also just to talk about how incredibly important these types of adjustments are. And I've mentioned before, the reason I'm such a big evangelist of air, of humidity, is because of something that I learned from my doctor way back when. I used to have the situation where I would go from my home that I was living in Columbia, Missouri, to my family's home, for a holiday or for a weekend or something like that in St. Joseph, Missouri. And when I would come back, inevitably, I would always get a sore throat. And I could not figure out why I would get a sore throat. But every time, so much so that my mom would text me, how's your throat feeling, after I would get back to Columbia. And so I talked to my doctor about it, and she said, one of the things is probably that the allergy profile is changing between those two places. And so it could be your allergies. But she looked at the back of my throat and she said, do you see those red areas that are there? I said, yes. And she goes, those are burns. And I said, burns? What? My throat has burns in it? Why? And she said, your body's mucus, the one of the substances that it produces to help lubricate and moisturize the different tissue in your body, is slightly acidic. The reason for that is because it's also used as a part of your immune response to help kind of collect and wash away bad things that are entering your system. But if you are in a dry area, if you are in a dry space, particularly overnight, then your body, in an effort to lubricate and moisturize those areas that are dry, will produce more mucus. And because it's at night and you're not swallowing and doing all these normal things that you would do as you go about your day, your body is just collecting that mucus there, and it's essentially burning the back of your throat. And so this whole time I had been burning the back of my throat because my body was trying to tell me, hey, you shouldn't be blowing that fan on me at night because you are just drying me out. So I stopped running the fan directly on me, and I added a humidifier to my space, and it genuinely made all the difference. I started with humidity as my focus, and upon doing so, it was such a revelation to me that I started to kind of, as I said, evangelize that. And then it was air purifying after that I spoke. And I want to talk about, I'm not going to mention this person specifically, but I will say that I recently received a message from someone who said, I just wanted to thank you for your sleep recommendations over the years. We added a humidifier to our home, and now my partner's asthma does not affect them overnight. Wow. And actually the person said their partner's asthma is almost non-existent since raising the humidity in the house, which about brought me to tears. I think that's so cool. That's so awesome. And it's kind of wild how such a seemingly small change can make all the difference, because all of these little things work together, and our body is an excellent communicator with itself, and it can turn on and off these switches based on the environment. And sometimes that means that the wrong switches get turned on or turned off based on what it thinks is going on. And so you can help it along in the process by making these adjustments. So yeah, start with humidity and go from there to looking at air purifiers. I would say, my other advice in this whole thing you're talking about air quality is you only have to replace them every 3 months. So don't skimp out on the air filters that if you've got HVAC in your house, if you've got AC in your home, if you've got central air in your home, do not skimp out on the air filters that go in the cold air return duct, because you only have to replace them every 3 months. And many people don't replace them every 3 months. They wait longer. So if you do, especially if you wait longer, you don't want to have a low quality insert there, because that thing is there to collect all of the particles in your house that don't get picked up by an air purifier if you have one of those. And over time, it gets more and more dirty. So there's so many benefits to this. Not only is it good for your health, but it's going to end up saving you money, because your AC is going to run a lot more efficiently. And you're also, if you do choose to go longer than the 3 months, then you're saving yourself even more, because you're not letting like a really cruddy one collect all this dust on it. And kind of the better quality they are, the more resilient they are. And so you can often vacuum them off if you do want to end up keeping them for a little bit longer. So there are all these reasons why it's a good idea not to skimp on that. If you can help it, make sure you get a good one of those. And then, humidity And you don't even have to go all out on the humidifier. Any humidifier that you can keep clean is a good humidifier to have. Don't use sink water. If you can, either use purified water that's, from a purified unit, or if you can't do that, distilled water is actually even better than any of those things. And so you can get some distilled water at the store and use that for your air purifier. And that just ensures that you are not putting little particles of bad stuff in the air that then collects in your lungs. So
that makes sense.
Humidifier lung is no joke. So much so that that actually it has a name now clinically. And so that's you got to keep those things clean. So find one that cleans easy, and then get don't use sink water for it. Because one of the less expensive ones is probably an atomizer method instead of a wick method. And if it is an atomizer method, the atomizer itself will collect all of the little hard water deposits on it. And so you end up ruining it. Excuse me, microphone. You end up ruining it by using tap water. And then, as I said, the health reasons. So yeah, those are some tips on adding automation. And
I have a few questions.
Go ahead.
What is the range that you use for the humidity? Is it like below 50%? Then that's when
I do.
Or wait, opposite way. I don't remember which one.
So I actually do. The recommendation is 50% is good humidity. You don't want to go above 60% because that's whenever you start to get into bacteria land. But as a person who uses my voice almost every day, I do 55%. So if the humidity drops below 55%, then the humidifier comes on. And in fact, today I am starting to feel my voice dry out because the AC is running more than it usually does. That's another thing I need to check on. And for anybody who doesn't know, air conditioning, that is a dehumidifying process by default. It takes moisture out of the air. So if you live in a house, especially right now during the pandemic, if you are staying home and you don't open your doors and windows a whole lot and you use AC and it's constantly, running throughout the day as it is meant to, you are pulling humidity out of the air and you are potentially, exacerbating those issues of mucus buildup and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, keep that in mind. AC is a dehumidifying process. And that reminds me, that was the other thing is that, I would drive between Columbia and St. Joseph and then back from St. Joseph to Columbia. And that was a 3-hour drive. And during that whole process, running the AC in my car. And so think about it being this small environment with AC running. There's not a lot of humidity in that small space because I don't ever run the AC with there's the two ways where it recycles the air or it pulls the air in from the outside. I like the recycling air because it makes it cooler faster. But I began to realize that I was almost like a sponge getting squished in the car as I was driving along. And so, a 6-hour session of having the humidity kind of sucked out of me, I had no idea that I was doing that. So it was revelatory even for me to hear, as I said, that AC is a dehumidifying process. So yeah, all of those things are something to pay attention to.
Fair. I'm looking at my data now because that's why I'm curious. We just got our heat a month ago, and so it definitely dries it out in the morning, but it looks like it creeps up to around 60% over the night. So that sounds like it's within the right realm, at least. I was just are we just drying ourselves out? But the air quality thing is especially the big one that I need to pay attention to more. And I've got my own outlet sensors, and mine just has a dial on the top, so we just leave it on and then the power just cuts whenever it doesn't need it. So I'm not sure what I could do about humidity as much. We have a wake sleep schedule for the heater, so it's just first thing in the morning it gets pretty dry, but I'm just glad to know that that's the right realm at least. And just right now it's 54%, so I'm not super worried about it. But worth paying attention to. And also just like, I think air quality is the one, especially now that we have a heater, that it's really easy for us not to notice because we just don't really think about it. So I need some sort of bed. I mean, just that kicking on could be the signal, but like I want to get an alert. And you don't have the Eve room, do you?
Yes, I've got a couple.
Because when I go to set up an automation in the home app, it only lets me do humidity. Doesn't let me do, which one is? It only lets me do air quality. It doesn't let me do humidity or temperature because it's all one sensor. But of course, if I go into the Eve app, it works, and all the other ones do. So
when you go say that again. When you go into which one?
If I go into setup automation and do like a sensor detect something, it only shows me air quality. Yeah, I can't see temperature at all, and I have no idea why. When
a sensor detects something, and then you choose the Eve room, and it only lets you do. Yeah,
it only shows the Eve air quality one, and doesn't because they're like the room itself is shown as 3 separate products.
Yeah, that's.
So I was wondering, I did cut out for a minute. Does your Aware thing, is it based off of Google Assistant or Amazon's thing or what? The automations, or is it homebridged?
I'm using homebridge.
Okay.
So it's I like it because it also has this, there's a little switch you will get in the app that lets you turn on kind of a local server that you can access. And so that local server has the information constantly printed to it throughout the day. And then your Homebridge server can look at that local server and get it. So there's no hopping up to the internet and hopping back down. It's all local area network to read those values. And again, I find that incredibly important, especially for automations as such.
Nice. Cool. Well, I gotta, now that I know that I can get it set up in the Eve app, I gotta get those going. It was just, I was limited before. So the more you learn.
The more you know.
Always get those third-party home apps. Like we talked about, Home Plus just came out with a good update a couple weeks ago, and that just, anytime something's not working in the home app, you can just go into those other ones, and they're like, "Oh, here it is. It just is fine here for some reason." So,
yep,
lovely.
All right. Up next, we have our picks of the week. Matthew Cassinelli, tell me about your pick of the week.
So I wanted to bring this back up because I've seen it go viral on TikTok, and I think it's been semi-viral for a while, or just like one of those things that it's a perfect smart home device for people who use TikTok, which is generally younger and probably not homeowners, is the SwitchBot that we've mentioned, because it can work on, it's just wireless. It also is usually independent of most of those services. But the one that I saw that went viral on TikTok was their window shade closer. I can't think of the proper term for it, but you put it over the bar on your window, and it will just move and open the shade for you physically, just like the one that I use for my espresso machine. Just has a little finger thing on it that when the sensor detects, it just pushes forward and pushes the little button, pushes the switch for you. So these are also, I don't think they were even on Amazon back when I bought them originally, but now they're $30 on Amazon on sale at least. And then they've even got black ones now too, which is cool. So
wow,
it's amazing. Oh, good video showing that's the SwitchBot is playing a DJ pad for somebody.
Wait, can we go, Kevin? Can you rewind? I didn't say to when. Can you rewind to that light switch? It's right after the DJ set, I think. And then if you'll pause whenever it gets, pause there. How do you undo?
You press it, it goes again. So the little, what we're showing on the screen is like a lamp with just a physical switch on it, and the SwitchBot thing goes down and switches it on. I guess it depends on the angle of it.
Because the switch is a toggle.
Practical. Yeah, now, like it is a little odd.
If the switch could move just ever so, if the little SwitchBot could take its little arm or its little finger and kind of adjust itself, That would, so it's, toggle mode, so to speak. That would be neat.
Yeah.
But that doesn't seem practical because how do I turn it off afterward?
Yeah, it's more for buttons than a switch itself. I guess if
not for toggling.
They're saying tape it right next to a rocker switch or button. Maybe if it's right in the middle, just the pressure and even because it's kind of dumb.
Yeah,
it's
that's
just
a good point.
Forcing it. So if it was on the right side, it could just slide slightly and switch to the other side. Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily choose it for that, but they've got other SwitchBot products too. They're back on the SwitchBot store. Curtain Smart Electric Motor is what it's called. So the other one, I saw this at CES. It clamps around the curtain rod, and then when you can have an automation that's in the morning, it'll just slightly move the curtains over to the left. It's got little wheels in it too. Neat. This is one of the their brand is fascinating because it's like a dumb smart device where it'll do the things that otherwise you would have a whole, I don't know, thing over your window installed with gaskets and sending it back and forth. And this is just a little more practical way that uses the intelligence to just rotate motors that then do the physical part for you. So it's pretty neat. I'm just glad because when I first heard of them, it was we want to get any customers at all kind of situation. And I love seeing stuff blow up on TikTok because that's more successful than anybody else could ever hope it could be for them. I don't think they've broken out into the non-TikTok market, but I think it'll be one of those things where all of these Gen Z people just have them and always use it, and it's great, and the rest of us just don't even know. So,
yeah, that's not entirely uncommon for sure. Okay, cool. I'm gonna have to check those out, especially as you noted the curtain thing. I think that's a novel idea that maybe doesn't cost $1 trillion. All right, let's move on to my pick. So we were talking earlier about thermal printers, and there's something that I have wanted to own for such a long time. It's a really nerdy product, but it makes me happy. And I finally decided to take the plunge and purchase my own label maker. That's right, folks. So Dymo sells this kit. It's $45, and look at this. It's got a handle on it. How nerdy is that? Say again.
A carrying case.
Yeah, it's got a carrying case. So this is the it's called the Dymo LM210D desktop kit case. And let me just unzip this bad boy. Yeah, that's right. How cool is this? And inside it comes with two different thermal tapes. There's one that is black text on yellow tape. And then the one that I have in the kit right now is black text on white tape. And this is the device itself, the Dymo label maker. And it has it's battery powered if you want it to be, but the kit comes with an AC adapter so that you can plug it in if you want to. And it does come with batteries, off-brand batteries, but batteries nonetheless. And then I can, it lets you do text sizes. It lets you do some kind of formatting, like adding borders and things like that. It doesn't have all of the features that some of them have that cost more money, that will do different fonts and things. But I really like this one for how much it costs and what it can do. As I said, both being free to move around as I wanted it to, or if I want to, I can plug it in. And then so far, I've added some labels to organize the wires and cables I have. There was one of my serrated knives ended up in the dishwasher, and this particular knife is not to go into the dishwasher. And somebody didn't know that it wasn't supposed to go into the dishwasher.
Somebody.
Somebody. I mean, I can't really complain. Somebody was loading the dishwasher, which is always awesome. But I had to let them know that didn't, that can't go in the dishwasher. It's just due to the material that the handle is made of. And so I made a little label that says no dishwasher on it and stuck it to the side of the thing, because these are water resistant labels. And of course, because it's thermal, the ink itself is not ink as such. So I was able to stick that on there. Chickenhead in the chat says, did you cut them with the serrated blade? No. He's super awesome and was loading the dishwasher and there were no complaints. But you got to say that can't go in the dishwasher. I forgot to tell you. So it was on me. But yeah, I it's kind of like whenever I first got the little Velcro cable ties, I wanted to put them on everything. I've got this label maker and now I want to just go around sticking like right hand, left hand, Bose headphones. I just want to put labels on everything. Everything needs labels now. So maybe don't get one of these. But if you are looking for a way to kind of help organize your space, and this is why I bring it up as a smart home person, you yourself know how you set up your different smart home devices. But if you live with someone or someone's, it might be not as easy for them to remember how you set up your smart home devices. And so I've got a few stateless switches in my house and programmable switches in my house where one press does this, two presses does that, or this button does this button does that. And so I've used these labels as a way to say all lights on, all lights off, some lights dim, some lights dimmer, or something like that. Well, however you have your lights set up with the different buttons. And so this was helpful in helping to label how the smart home works. So yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, like, putting HomeKit codes in a place that's more visible is a good use of this
also
too,
a good idea.
Or wrapping the ends of USB cables, saying what the other side is, so that you know this is a USB on this side, but it's USB-C on the other side. It's always helpful. But yeah, what kind of nerd uses a label maker? Sitting over here typing away on mine because I love these too. And
which
also,
brand
of
is
course,
yours? LOL.
the Epson one, but it's labeled with a label that says labels. So just in case you didn't know.
God, I'm among my nerd friends. Fantastic.
Here, I made one for the show too. So.
Oh, very good. Look at that. Smart Tech Today right there. The show has been labeled. I should put one on the camera that says, look here.
Oh, I've done that. I did that, or I just used a sticky note, but I did it on my webcam or my actual camera to point in the center and then also just say smile, because especially when you're filming by yourself, you're just like staring into the lens and you forget to actually smile, which comes through a lot when you're otherwise, like, if you act normal on video, you just look super depressed for some reason. And everybody who's acting in videos is like trying to be energetic. And it seems when you're filming it, you seem like a crazy person. And then when you actually watch it again, it's like, oh, that's just totally normal. So a little label can go a long way sometimes.
And that, folks, that is the theme of this show. A little label can go a long way. If you have questions or feedback you want to send our way, or label ideas to send our way, send those to, let me type this out on the Dymo. No, I'm just kidding. STT@twit.tv.
I was doing it too.
Oh, that's funny.
I was printing a label. Just for
we are such nerds. STT@twit.tv. It stands for Smart Tech Today. That is our show. We record new episodes every Thursday. Oh my God. Wow, yours is fast. Mine takes time, it seems. New episodes are out every Thursday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 1:30 p.m. Pacific. By the way, that's not true. We record new episodes every Thursday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 1:30 p.m. Pacific. And you can join us live by going to twit.tv/live at that time. But the best way to get the show is by going to twit.tv/STT and clicking to subscribe to audio or video. And any number of places, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's the best way to be a part of or to check out the show and make sure you get it. Matthew Cassinelli, if folks want to follow you online and check out all that great work you're doing, where do they go to do that?
You can go to MatthewCassinelli.com to find all of my stuff. And then also this Sunday for members, I'm going to be walking people through my new home screen strategy that I slightly mentioned last week. So I'm excited because I deleted about 1,000 of my shortcuts and have completely rebuilt my library, like I said. So I'm excited to share that with people before I turn that into a whole fancy YouTube video. So this Sunday.
Nice.
What about you?
This Sunday on the internet. You can find me online at chihuahua.coffee, CHIHUAHUA.coffee, which is a site that has links to all the places I exist online. And I need to update that because there are some places I exist that are not listed there. But if you also just want a heaping helping of cute dogs, then you just scroll down to the bottom of that site and you will see my babes, Henry, Francis, and Mizzy Claire. Yeah, that is that. And I guess it is time to say good afternoon to all of your smart assistants or to make a label.
Goodbye.
Yay!
Hey, folks, I'm Ant Pruitt, host of Hands of Photography here on TWiT TV. I know some of you have gotten yourself a brand new camera or you just had a camera sitting around and can't quite figure out how to get the most out of it. Well, I have a solution. My show, Hands on Photography. So subscribe right now to learn how to get the most out of that camera. I'm going to show you how to make those images pop. I don't care if it's a Canon camera. I don't care if it's a Sony, Nikon, iPhone, Android, even an inexpensive Android device. I got you covered. So head on over to twit.tv/hop and subscribe today.